So, riots, censorship, and public health propaganda have become the new normal in America, with one goal: to make sure that you are living paralyzed by fear. And they're hoping you don't remember that America is the land of the free and the home of the brave. Just yesterday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law a historic pro-police and pro-America anti-riot bill. Also the same day, Mike Lindell, a personal hero, launched his frank social media platform, uncensored, focusing on free speech, and over 90 million Patriots showed up on the first day. So we're going to be covering all this and more on today's show. Welcome to Man in America. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse. I'm so excited to see everyone here. I love coming up to these live shows. It's like seeing my family. That's how I feel. Well, let's go ahead and start as we usually do. Where is everyone coming from? Where are you watching from? I love to see this isn't just America. The whole world is watching. And yes, Freedom Reign, 90 million. They had over 90 million views just, I think, in the first 24 hours. It's incredible. 90 million. That's almost as many people as voted for Biden, right? All right. So we've got Darlene from Virginia. Welcome. CP23 from South Carolina. Freedom Reign, your family brother. Yes, we are family. We are in this together. Rudy. Good to see you, Rudy, from LA. Paul, Youngstown, Ohio. Valerie from Michigan. I don't discriminate against Michigan, even though I'm in Ohio. I promise. Philip from Liverpool, UK. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. Gosh, Larry Burkus from CEO. Not sure. Okay. Frank Benedict from Rome, Hong Kong. Gosh, Hong Kong. My prayers, my thoughts and prayers are with you in Hong Kong. Roz Rodriguez, South Texas. Good to see you. Brandon, Washington State. Trixie Tot, upstate New York. I used to live there. Martha's Vineyard, Kristen. Beautiful area. Dave Swan, Illinois, but not the bad part. OG, the OG from Southwest Texas. Darlene, you're born in Akron. I was born in Columbus. All right. Dana Apple Cheese, Southern California. Deplorable there representing. Nikki, East Texas. Austin. Gosh, not Austin. Wow. Great. From Kenya. Thank you. Gosh, incredible. Minnesota. Robert in Florida. I'm jealous. I'm talking about your governor today. MAGA 2020. Good to have you here, Netherlands. So good to have you here, MAGA 2020. All right, so Ford Truck. Yes, I miss President Trump. Nathaniel Simpson Sr., hello, from American Teaching in China. Gosh, God bless you. Good luck there. I've been to China many times, and the best way I always describe China is when people ask me about it, I said, it feels like it's the kind of place you could be out in a crowded area, a black van could show up, put a mask on someone's head, a black bag on someone's head, throw them in there, drive away, and nobody would say anything. That was my feeling. Luciano from Italy, thank you for coming. All right, so we're going to go ahead and dive into today's show. So, riots. Okay, we've got Maxine Waters calling for violence with support from Pelosi. Imagine that. We've got the Derek Chauvin trial. The jury is, I believe they're still deliberating. They're very close to releasing the verdict, which it looks like from what I'm seeing, it looks like there's a good chance that he'll be acquitted because it appears that George Floyd died of an overdose and that his knee wasn't on the neck and on the shoulder. So there's a lot of things that are, the narrative is falling apart, which imagine that, another narrative, just like the Sicknick, the police officer down in DC on January 6th that ended up he died of a stroke. So the whole narrative collapsed. But again, the mainstream media controls the narrative, so it doesn't matter if the real narrative collapses, they go on to the next thing. MAGA 2020, yes, Maxine is an insurrectionist. I agree, whether it was the Rodney King riots, she's been, consistently one of the ones. She's she's a Marxist, just pushing this terrible, evil agenda. And of course, you turn the TV on. I know for me, it's like last night I was watching, there's this big, beautiful church burning to the ground in Minneapolis. It's like, why are the churches being targeted? Well, it's of course, it's the Marxist movement coming in. They have to destroy the religions. They have to say, hey, because of COVID, you can't attend church. So it's saddening. But what's amazing though, and this is what really takes me back to the founding fathers and how they set up our country. And this is what's amazing, is that it was set up in a way that the states maintain their own powers that are different from the federal government, because they saw that a federal government that had just complete control over everything can absolutely turn into tyranny. So similar to the way that each individual person has their own rights, the states have their own rights, and these things are what keep the checks and balances in place. So yesterday, Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida, I think is an absolute hero. I think he's the number one governor in America. And I don't think that he's got these kind of corrupt ties that are behind the scenes. To me, he seems like a true patriot, and it's not a coincidence that this is also where Trump is based. So Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law the anti-riot bill. And this is an incredible bill. Imagine if this was in place across America, how this would change the landscape. So I want to just show you this. Okay, so DeSantis signs anti-riot bill, cracking down on public disorder. And of course, there's all kinds of the media, the mainstream media, they're coming out against this, but this is incredible. So on Monday, he signed a controversial measure, of course, the Hill is saying that, known as the anti-riot bill into law, which is aimed at combating public disorder. So the bill, which goes into effect immediately, which is great, requires that cities receive approval from the state before cutting their police budgets, and it raises the charge for protesters who destroy historical structures, including flags and memorials, to a felony. Additionally, the bill grants civil legal immunity to individuals who drive through roads that protesters block off, which means, you've probably seen the videos of previous riots where protesters they block a whole road, they start attacking a car, the car has to drive off, they hit a few protesters. It's either that or they get drug out and beat to death, right? So what this law does is it gives them immunity. So if that's the case and they have to drive out to protect themselves and they hit one of these protesters who shouldn't be in the road in the first place, it gives them immunity. It's incredible. It increases the charge for battery on a police officer, upping the consequences to a minimum of 6 months in jail. Whereas you see in a lot of these other areas like Minneapolis, Portland, you have all these celebrities coming out. They're funding these the bail for all these criminals, coming out. So this is making it mandatory. That they are put into jail for a minimum of 6 months. That's if there's battery on a police officer. So it approved with a lot of support with the legislation. Kind of scrolling down a little bit more, the legislation comes as the country prepares for a potential surge in protests following the verdict in the trial of Derek Chauvin, who we're all familiar with. And the thing is with Chauvin's trial, regardless of which way it goes, I think the plan is to riot, right? That's just how it is. The other thing with this bill is that this is very interesting. It blocks any of the defunding the police. And this is what's especially good, is that if, let's just say, a city, let's say, for instance, Miami, they want to defund the police in their own area, or they call the police to stand down when there's riots, it actually makes it so that business owners can come after and sue the city for damages, right? So that it actually opens up the city for liability. And we know that the BLM riots have caused billions and billions of dollars in damage, right? And so imagine if all these business owners, which a lot of them are Black African-American business owners, that they're just trying to run their businesses that get destroyed. Imagine if they could then turn around and sue the city for saying, look, you pulled back your police force. You're responsible for this. So I'm going to play a quick video of DeSantis introducing this.
Says that I'll sign into law today is that if you're derelict in your duty as a local government, if you tell law enforcement to stand down,
everyone give Kate
then you're responsible for the damage that ensues. And if someone's been harmed or their property has been destroyed, then they can sue you for compensation. We also have penalties for people that commandeer highways, which we saw in other parts of the country. Just think about it. You're driving home from work, and all of a sudden you have people out there shutting down a highway. And we worked hard to make sure that didn't happen in Florida. They start to do that. There needs to be swift penalties, and that's something that just cannot happen. We also saw around the country people toppling monuments of people like George Washington. This bill protects all monuments in Florida. You have no right to go in and take down monuments. We're not going to let the mob win the day with that.
So again, there has become our reality, that you look at what's happening in these riots, you look at the looting, and what it is, it's a complete destruction of the rule of law, and that's ultimately, again, you know, on this show I've talked a lot about the larger, you know, communist agenda that's coming in, and how this is not just a political thing, it's not just the radical left, but this is a communist coup. I think a lot of it ties back to China. There's still a lot of inroads that were set up from the KGB that, you know, tie back into you know, Soviet Russia. But this is subversion, and what they're doing, though, is you can see that in the areas where they gain power, and this is what's important to understand, is that when they gain power, they are intentionally working on destroying those regions. You look at you know, a lot of these people that are out in California, you know, commie California. You know, they are intentionally doing things to destroy their cities, the lockdowns to destroy small businesses, the allowing the protests, defunding their police forces. I was reading an article yesterday, I don't have to pull up for you, on the Epoch Times, talking about how they say, well, yes, there's a disease increase in gun violence, increase in deaths, right? And again, magically, now that, you know, Biden is going after the gun agenda, there's all these new, you know, shootings and everything. But if you look at these statistics, you know, you look at, you know, some of these cities where they've defunded their police, you'll see that police stops are, say, down 56%, right? In that same area, murders are up 63%, right? And these are the same statistics that you see across these cities. So what I'm seeing happening, and it's frightening to see us unfold, is that what you're seeing in everything is that you're seeing the divide go further and further. Like it's if you know, I've studied a little bit some, you know, Chinese philosophy, and you look at the yin and the yang, right? How the yin and the yang works is that what it is that as it goes further, you hit the extremes, it pushes things further apart, and the further that you get down into that, the further it pulls things apart. And so what I see happening, it's like America, gosh, you know, say 20 years ago, used to feel pretty consistent. You had your more liberal states, you had your more conservative states, you had your red states, your blue states. But look at the difference now between Minnesota, Minneapolis versus Florida. Look at the difference, right? But the thing is that this is also, again, I see, you know, people commenting about you have to show them, right? And it's an important point, because this is why I believe that really fundamentally in the individual rights, right? Because you can judge a person based on his character, right? If you look at the communist system, you look at everyone as equal. There's no longer differences between people, right? And so, but this is how I also look at America and in its states having separate powers, the ability to have separate laws and rules for their citizens within that state. But it's how I also look at the whole world. Like, I am vehemently opposed to a one world government. And that's a whole other, there's a billion reasons why. But the thing is that when you have separate countries that can choose to rule in their own ways, you see which ones are best. Look at the Middle East. Do I want to live there? No, I'd like to live in America, or America these days. So that's exactly what's happening at the state level. Is you're seeing, you have to show them Why are these mass exoduses happening from the blue states? Because people are seeing. I think a lot of people are waking up amidst this. I know that. There's a lot of people that I know I've talked to that may have even voted for Biden. They're saying, gosh, I can't believe what's happening at the border. Look what's happening in Minneapolis, right? And you compare that. And even if you look at places where they've opened up the restrictions, they've removed the mask mandates, look at the statistics, right? You can see, right? You can see. So anyway, so the point of this is looking at just the contrast of where these riots are, how they're doing things there, but looking at Florida and DeSantis. And also part of it is that I really want to show, and I love seeing this, just examples of people standing up. And that's my favorite thing to talk about, because that's what encourages me. I see DeSantis doing these things, or banning the medical passports, and it's like, oh gosh, there are Americans here that remember who we are as Americans, right? So this is the perfect transition into the next thing I'm going to talk about, which gets into Mr. Mike Lindell. Is that I think it was over the weekend. Yes, it was over the weekend. There was a health and freedom conference. This is out in Tulsa. And I really wish I could have gone. I had other things I had to do. And I also have a young child. It's a little more complicated. But they had General Flynn, Sidney Powell, Mike Lindell, Mike Adams, a health ranger, all these people that came. There were I think it was around 5,000 people in attendance. And they had 50,000 requests for tickets, which is incredible. And but I want to show Mike Lindell's part of his speech that he gave there. And I'll make a little side note here is that the conference, the theme of the conference was dispelling fear. It was getting rid of the demon of fear. And because I think that's, if you look at why are so many Americans being controlled and rushing off to get, the medications, or kind of locking themselves in their own homes for a year, not seeing family for the holidays, is that it's fear, right? Like they've used fear. And to me, it's like you can't have fear and faith living within the same being at the same time. And so to me, it's do I live in fear or do I live in faith? And so I think that's what this whole conference was about, was really finding faith, returning to God, and not having fear and getting rid of the fear. So I'm going to show you this from Mr. Mike Lindell, which is just a small snippet, but incredible.
And lastly, I want to tell you this. I want you all to leave with this. This is my story that, it's the American dream. And we don't want to lose the American dream. And I'm telling you right now, this is the best time. You guys should all be so thankful, because this is historical what we're in right now. Even I told the kids in college, the college kids, I said, you guys that went to college the last 2 decades, I said, now are you realizing that socialism isn't just socializing with a cup of coffee talking to your friend? It's evil, and it brings in communism, but they skipped right over socialism. It's here, and it's scary. But don't be scared. Everyone go. We only have one fear, and that's fear of the Lord, because I'm telling you, way out, when you look back, just like I looking back in my life, when I look back, when it was things that were devastating at the time, I look back now and I say, that had to happen, or I wouldn't be right here. And I'm telling you, we're going to be the same. When we get out here into the future here, the glorious, amazing place we're going to be, it's going to be the greatest uniting of a country ever. And we're going to look back and say, all this had to happen to get to this great place. Because once again, we will be one nation under God. And we're in the biggest revival for Jesus in history. God bless you all.
How can you watch that and not be grinning ear to ear? And this is the thing, is that this is what this is bringing out, right? Again, this actually is a principle of the yin yang, right? Is when you have the darkness comes. Eventually it gets to a point where the darkness can only go so far and the light, it starts to invert. And that's what's happening, right? If you remember the plot to steal America, right, where I talked about towards the end, it said, they wanted the Great Reset, but what they got was the Great Awakening. And that's what's happening, is that so many people are seeing through these control mechanisms. And I don't get into this too heavily in my shows, but these plans that we're seeing unfold here, these are hundreds of years old. The people, the families, the organizations that are doing this isn't something that's come up in the past 20 or 30 years. Our civilization as we know it has really had very bad people that have had a lot of control for a very long time. And their control, though, it's through fear and ignorance, really. And the ignorance is, withholding information, crafting the narrative using the mainstream media, removing information that will free people. Again, I'm not going to get into too many things I'll get banned for talking about, but some of the different cures for some of the recent illnesses going along. They don't want you to know what you can do to combat that on your own, because they want you to remain in ignorance and in fear. So again, there is this great awakening happening. It's incredible. And leading, kind of final story is one of the best examples of that. So I'm going to read about this to you. But yesterday, Mike Lindell launched his social media platform called Frank. Right, the website is frankspeech.com, and he had a 48-hour live stream. He called it a Frankathon. It's really funny. He had a 48-hour live stream, which is still going on frankspeech.com. And as of yesterday, he had, I think he was up to past 90 million people. 90 million people had tuned in to watch. And at different points, and he had upwards of 20 million people simultaneously watching. Incredible, absolutely incredible. So let me go ahead and jump into just to explain a little bit more about what's been happening with this new platform. And I will be going to my favorite news media, the Epoch Times. I'm both biased and realistic when I talk about how much I love this media company. Okay, so it was also attacked, of course. But MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell launched a new social media platform, Frank, on Monday morning. But users aren't yet able to set up profiles to interact on the platform. So, and I've seen a few people asking, is that when you log on, if you've gotten in, I've already created an account. So far, it looks more like a news aggregation website. So my understanding is that the Twitter aspect and some things are still being rolled out. And I'll be looking at the website shortly here. So, but it will take a little bit of time, and this also explains why. So he said, Frank was attacked. It's the biggest attack in history next to the election, Lindell said in the live stream. He's facing cyber attacks from all over the world. So Lindell made the remarks as he's holding a 48-hour live stream as a backup plan. The live stream had around 15 million views at noon, increasing to about 90 million at 10 p.m., according to Mike Lindell. Frank, also known as Frank Speech, is described to be a mix of YouTube and Twitter. So this is incredible. Noting that he's been receiving death threats, Lindell said that he has his own servers so that when the website goes operational, it won't be vulnerable to being shut down by third-party providers. If you remember Parler, which was just pulled off by Amazon Web Servers, and our favorite Jeff Bezos. During the live stream, Lindell also took aim at the fact checkers, saying Facebook decides what to do after the fact, and noting that sometimes fact checkers get the right information, but big tech platforms impose their own views. So he was joined by Michael Flynn, as I said, and a few other people that were on there. Roger Stone was on there. So this is just incredible. And so what's also amazing, though, he said, this is a turning point in history. They are not taking our rights in free speech. And so last month, Lindell told the Epoch Times the platform will be able to host up to 1 billion users. And this is what I like the most, is this paragraph right here. The core idea of the platform is to uphold free speech based on the original founding principles of the Judeo-Christian worldview. And during the live stream, Lindell talked about how the United States was founded as a constitutional republic that is in accord with the laws of the divine. And what's amazing is so profanity and using God's name in vain will not be allowed on the platform. Death threats and pornography, of course, are also banned. So this is, again, this to me is incredible. And what's also amazing, and if you go on Google and you search for the news and you look for Michael Lindell, so many of the media outlets are taking that one point about how, oh, well, Frank calls this a free speech platform, yet you can't say the Lord's name in vain. It's like, yes, like that's the beauty of it, okay, is that he's drawing a line. He's recognized that as he mentioned, he's recognized that the foundation of our country was built upon Judeo-Christian values. The whole Constitution, the whole premise of the Constitution, all the founding documents recognizes there is a divine, and that divine has given man these inalienable rights, right? So he's recognizing with this that if we want to get back to where we need to go, we have to do so by getting back to the moral principles that God set forth for mankind and for this country. So this is just incredible news. And something else that he announced, this is the big announcement he has, which is, again, I have so much respect for this man. He's such a patriot. He's a super patriot, right? So this is another announcement that he had. Okay, so that so he's suing Dominion. Right? We all know about Dominion for $1.6 billion. Right? So Dominion, you've probably seen the news. They're coming after Sidney Powell. They sued. They're coming after Michael Lindell, Lynn Wood, I believe. Anybody that was speaking out against them in that November 3rd kind of scenario that I can't talk about on here. Anybody that's speaking out against them, they were going after heavy $1 billion plus lawsuits. And so what he's saying, though, is that with this lawsuit that they're filing, he has Alan Dershowitz, who's a constitutional attorney, coming on and supporting, is that what they're doing is that the premise of the lawsuit is that by a corporation filing all of these massive lawsuits, it's a violation of the First Amendment. So he's saying this is a significant lawsuit because it's a lawsuit based upon the Constitution, by saying that this company, you had these people doing their own investigative research and coming out and saying, look, based upon our research, we believe that this company is doing X, right? And so the fact that they're coming out and suing them, it's a violation of free speech. So this is exciting to me because we're so used to seeing these massive corporations with these massive budgets, backed by all kinds of public things, and you find out that, oh, Zuckerberg's funding this and Gates is funding that. You see, they're all working together to come after the rights of Americans, the freedoms of Americans, which, again, it's not that dissimilar to what Mussolini described as what is fascism. It's a merger. It's the large corporations and businesses, the private sector merging with the government sector to take control of a country. And as much as they warned about fascism under Trump, I think what we're seeing now is a true example of that playing out. So I'm going to finish by just taking a look. I want to show you some of the information that you see on Frank's speech. Now, I can't talk about some of the things, but I'll highlight some of the things I want you to look at. That this is the information that 90 million Americans are able to have access to. And it's only going to get better from here. So let me jump over to that and just show you. So now I'm not going to play this, but this is his live stream. I mean, gosh, the guy's been going for quite a while. It looks like he's doing some sort of an interview that he can't talk about, or he can't reveal the identity. So this is, so right now when you go to frankspeech.com, you'll see just articles. You're seeing content. Now, pardon me that some of this is not loading properly, which could be part of I know that the site's been under attack, but like, look, he's talking about, over here, he's talking about these topics that you can't talk about. So you can find information on these. You want to do your own research. There's so much information that he's talking about, even things about November 3rd that are on here. There's an incredible amount of information that he's already putting out there for people to have access to. And what's so important with this is that if you look at if you look at the history, look at different communist or totalitarian regimes that have taken over countries, right? They do so by controlling the information, right? Now, I know that I've had the thought even, I'm like, okay, gosh, what's in our future? Am I going to be in a gulag in 2 years? I mean, I'm certainly on some sort of list. I'm not the one that just sits quietly and just obeys whatever order I'm given. But I've had that thought that I've been scared. Okay, what's going to happen? I look at what's happening in China. I look at what happened in Russia, and the Armenian genocide, the Holodomor in Ukraine, all these things. Okay, and I wonder what's going to happen. But something that's encouraging to me is that America has this incredible fighting spirit. And you've got people like Mike Lindell. Like, imagine in say, communist China, imagine in the 70s when they're doing their campaigns, or even currently, imagine if, say, Jack Ma says, you know what, I've had enough of this totalitarian government. I'm going to make my own social media platform where you can say anything, you can criticize the government. That would never happen, right? They wouldn't be able to control that. So what we have in America, America still is the land of the free. I know that they're encroaching on that, and that's their plan, but it still is the land of the free, where people like Mike Lindell can create their own social media platform. People like the folks at the Epoch Times can start a media company that isn't controlled by the globalist agenda. They can talk about the things that they want to talk. They can expose the truth about things like the election or these other topics. If you go to the epochtimes.com, they even talk a lot about the the things that everyone's getting right now, the injections. I'll call them. I have to be very careful with my words, but they talk about some of the different adverse effects. You can do your own research. So this is what's amazing about America, is that these things can be done. Not to mention the fact that America is armed to the teeth. And I want to do an episode specifically about the Second Amendment. But there has never been an instance in history where a totalitarian regime has been able to take over a country with well-armed citizens. It's never happened in history. Removing guns from the citizens was always a step in that, which is why, obviously, the Second Amendment is such a hot topic right now. And I think that even people like, you look at the sheriff in Polk County. Do you think he's going to go bust in, take away people's guns? No. There are so many sheriffs and police officers that are so pro-Constitution, pro-Second Amendment. In America, gosh, especially after the pandemic, the gun ownership in America has just been skyrocketed. There are so many well-armed people here that will defend their rights. So all these things, again, I love coming together with everyone here because for me, you go anywhere else, you look, not anywhere, but you look at the mainstream media, and it is very doom and gloom. But there is so much good happening, and there are so many people, so many patriots, so many Christians, so many people of really all religions that are coming together, and they're saying, I'm not going to stand for this, and they're standing up. So I want to just take a little bit of time to see if anybody has any questions or comments about this episode, or anything I talked about, or anything that you see happening today. I appreciate everyone's patience with our audio issue. It happens. This is I guess you could say it's a kind of mom and pop operation. I'm not some part of some big network that I'm in some big channel. So Bonnie Quitek, I'm encouraged. Great. That's good. I think we have a lot of reasons to be encouraged. Elijah, evil Democrats stole power, load up on guns. People, commies, put a fence around the Capitol, protect the steal. They call Christian white patriots as terrorists. Yes, I agree. They're coming after that. Kirsten, what can we do? I mean, it's a great question. And I want to continue to have these kinds of discussions of, what can we do? I think it's a handful of things. And to give you a more quick response, one is, I think, start with your own family, start with your own household. Do you own a gun? Do you have ammunition? I think every household in America should. just because guns are for protection. They are a great tool for protection. Looking at how self-sufficient are we? Are we able to grow our own food? I think that, like, if I remember my grandparents, my great-grandparents, actually my great-grandparents that lived through the Depression, they're so self-sufficient. Even my great-grandmother, she's got a huge garden, she's canning, she's got a root cellar. I think it's so important for us to really learn to be independent, because if they want to close down the grocery stores, if there's an agenda to, get us into bread lines by, closing down the grocery stores or the food supply chain, are we able to take care of ourselves? Do we have supplies? Great. Kirsten, you grew up on a farm. That's something I think. And the other thing too, and again, this could be a long answer. I think it's really important that we continue to talk to those around us, continue to try to talk to our neighbors, our family members, that help them see. You use these tools, use some of the articles you might find on Frank's Speech or the Epoch Times. Share these things with us, because the more people that wake up, and it's becoming easier than ever now. Even maybe want to say you have a friend that's very, very, very liberal. Ask question. What do you think of the riots? What do you think about what's happening in Minnesota? What do you think about the church being burned down? Asking questions. It's also very important. Again, that may not be the perfect answer, but I could probably spend a lot of time on that. The other thing is just get involved. Get involved in your local school board, get involved in your local community functions, get more involved in your church. Just bring America. Yes, exactly. Denny Sheffield. Get back to being an American community, right? American community. That's so important. Is building our community again. Dave Swan, pray like it depends on God. Work like it depends on you. Very good, very good. And I think that's also. This is something I'll throw in one more final point as it relates to that, is I genuinely believe that what we're seeing here is the playing out of, some stage of the final battle of good and evil, that so many religions, so many prophets have spoken about. And so I think that this really comes back to good and evil. And so I think the most important thing that we can all do is look at ourselves and think, where have I allowed evil to enter into my life, and where can I strengthen the good, right? Like, so for me, I canceled my Netflix. I stopped watching a lot of the shows that, I kind of knew that there's maybe something bad that was kind of coming in through it. I stopped listening to a lot of the music I used to listen to, because the more I kind of woke up to these things, I realized, gosh, there's actually a lot of bad stuff in there. And everything that we put into our minds affects us. Everything that we put into our brain, it affects us energetically. It affects us emotionally. So I think be very vigilant. It's like your body is your temple. Really look at what we're putting into ourselves. Look at what we're allowing our children to interact with. Really look at how do we have any vices, right? Look at how we can correct these things in our own lives, because the closer we can get to the good, I think the more power that we have. I believe we have more spiritual power. Our prayers are stronger. And all those things will strengthen us. All those things will strengthen us. So, okay. Well, it's 12:47. I tend to go a little longer than I want to on these things, but I get so excited when I see everyone here. Thank you again for joining. I'll be back on again on Thursday at noon. I can't wait to see everybody. Oh gosh, how could I forget? If you're watching, please hit the like button on this video. YouTube, I don't think YouTube likes me very much. I tend to be probably in one of their kind of bad lists. But when you hit like on the video, it increases the algorithms kind of pushing the video out. So it helps the video get shared more, because again, they're censoring channels like mine so much. The fact that I've been capped at around 80,000 followers since Trump shared the video and all that. There's just been so much throttling. So again, hit the like button. If you've subscribed, make sure you're still subscribed. YouTube actually goes and unintentionally unsubscribes people. Click the little notification thing so you get the notification when the new videos are up. Oh, sorry. I'm going to say one more thing. Beep boop beep bop boop. Good comment on books. This is something I would highly recommend. A couple of years ago, I went out and bought. I think I maybe ordered them online or went to a local bookstore. I bought tons of books, just these big paper books on homesteading, gardening, even things like how to repair things in your home, because God forbid, maybe the internet goes down at some point and we don't have that. So the more self-sufficient we can become, the better off we're going to be. So yeah, so Cook 4015, smash the like button. Yes. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining today. I feel so blessed to be able to sit and talk with you. Freedom Reign, sorry, quick question. Are you on other social media pages we can follow? Yes. I'm most active on Telegram. So Telegram, my username is just Man in America. I'm on Safe Chat, also as Man in America. You can see me pretty easily there. I think I'm a featured channel on there because I've been on there, one of the earlier people to be on there. Yes, Crackerjack also supporting Home Depot. Yes, I think so. Home Depot has taken a stance and they're not supporting all the anti-Georgia, kind of proper voting laws actions. So going to Home Depot, I think I'm going to Home Depot today to get some things for my garden, support Home Depot. And also, one other thing we can do is vote with your dollar. Look at where you're giving your money, right? Just look at where you're spending your money, which companies you're going on to. In the last video you saw, I covered Second Vote, 2ndvote.com. Check it out. It tells you how companies rank in their kind of whether they're more supportive of conservative and Judeo-Christian values, or whether they're just ultra liberal, up there with Ben and Jerry's and Bill and Melinda Gates. And Federalist 2.0, no more Coca-Cola. Yes, again. All right, I'm going to hop off. I could keep going for a long time. So good to see you all. Have a wonderful day. Keep your head up. Great things are ahead, regardless of what dark times we have ahead. There is going to be an era of greatness that we will be experiencing once we get through this tribulation. All right. Thank you, everyone. Take care.